Are you ready for what's next with your finances? Well, Dexter and Crystal Hardiman, Dexter, a financial advisor for Edward Jones, and Crystal works for Purina and has her own business. They are New Life's financial coaches and they are ready to help you.
Welcome to What's Next in Your Personal Finances, where we want to talk about some steps that you can take for financial freedom in this climate. I'm John Dexter Hardiman.
I'm Crystal Hardiman.
And we're here to walk you through some financial tips and to kind of understand what we can do, not only in this economy, but then what's next after the economy, right? And so we're gonna have a little discussion about the U.S. economy. We're gonna kind of see how do we get our personal finances in order, but how do we get here also? And then we're gonna focus on controlling what we can control, right? That's important, don't you think?
That's the most important part.
I think so. So right now in the media, you'll hear a lot about two things that start with I: inflation and interest rates. And so we thought it'd be important just to kind of do a level set on what is inflation, right? We hear it all the time. And that is basically the price of goods are going up faster than our wages, to be honest with you. Inflation basically means that you pay more for goods than you used to before. And in some cases, those goods have shrunk.
Yes, yes, they have. They have downsized.
You know, I distinctly remember when I was a kid, candy bars.
Yeah, that's a good
They
example.
were 25 cents. And then all of a sudden, I remember the size of the bar shrunk by about a third. And then it went up like 30 cents, and then again it went up to 50 cents. Remember that, like when we were kids?
I do.
That's inflation,
And
right?
that's what's happening now.
You're paying more, but you're getting either the same amount, and like we said, in many cases, less.
And I know we've all seen less. We've all seen the shrinkage of the packets of meat and butter and things like that. I'm even noticing the toilet paper roll is not as wide as it used to be. I was like, boy, they cut just a little bit of it off. But, you know, that is the environment we're in.
You're exactly right. Everything from chicken wing shortage, right, which has doubled the price of chicken wings. And our son, he told a little joke. He's like, you know, like to go out and order chicken wings, your money kind of has to be right nowadays, right? So, like you said, butter, the cost of juice, everything is increasing, and so what is being done to combat inflation is the other thing you're hearing a lot about in the news, which is interest rates. So, why are interest rates going up? The Federal Reserve is increasing interest rates to slow the economy and to lower inflation. So how are they doing that? So higher interest rates discourage people from borrowing money. The result is people purchase fewer goods, right? Like if I can't go out and borrow money to go on this vacation, then I'm probably not going to go on this vacation if I don't already have the money saved. And if I have the money saved, do I really want to blow it on a vacation, as an example? So if people start spending money, because you may hear the term, the economy is overheating, right? That means people are spending money, prices are going up, and the Federal Reserve wants to lower the temperature on the economy and slow down business growth and stabilize prices. So increased interest rates means things like savings accounts, money markets, CDs. Instead of buying things, I might be more tempted, and I should be more tempted to save, right?
Save, yeah.
And to because I'm getting higher interest rates. And so the whole reason why interest rates are rising is we want to encourage people to save, and it helps slow down the economy. Now, when we say save, here in the United States, our savings rate is about 3.5%. And what does that mean? So savings rate means the amount of money that you have after you pay taxes and after you spend. 3.5% is not a lot of money. So, economists say we want that to be more like 10 or 20%. We're not saving enough as a people. And the reason a lot of times is because the prices are so increased, right? But then there's also other reasons. And that's when we want to start talking about like controlling what we can control.
Yeah.
We don't often plan to be in these bad financial situations if you are in a bad, we don't plan for that. But let's take a look at why it happens, right? And so the first thing is lack of planning. You have any thoughts on lack of planning?
You know what? Before lack of planning, I believe it's lack of knowledge.
Ah,
I think the lack of knowledge is what's driving a lot of it, not realizing that we do need to plan for
Yeah.
these things.
you say that, like I have a note here, Hosea 4:6. My people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And so it's not just the lack of knowledge, but it's behind the scripture. It's the you don't even want to get the knowledge, right? And that's the bad part. And then on the planning, it's just very simple. It's just like I use this analogy. If you're going to get in your car and go somewhere, you have to have gas, right? So if you're going to go anywhere with your financial future, you've got a plan. It's just planning is the fuel for financial success. So you've got to do that. And then finally, we tend to procrastinate. I'd say, right?
Yeah, okay, we can call it procrastination. We can call it procrastination, but we really just don't want to do it.
Right.
We just don't want to do it. I used to have the perspective of I work 40 hours a week. I should be able to spend my money, right? So yeah, procrastinate. You want to get around to it. That's kind of like life insurance and things like that, right? We'll get around to it. But yeah, so we're going to tell you how to, what we can do with what we can control.
Yeah.
That's our next steps.
So what's the first thing we can do? Can we maybe check our spending?
Ooh. That's always a fun exercise in class.
Are we consistently overspending? And, why are we consistently overspending? I think one of the things that we always want to ask people to do is just for a couple of days, track your spending and see where your money is going. And just write down, keep your receipts, write it down, make a note on your phone.
Just be diligent, just for a couple of days.
You'd be surprised, right?
Yeah, and it's always a very eye-opening exercise when we do that in class. The other thing is encouraging people to balance their checkbook. So taking an inventory of what's been spent in the past month or so, just to get an understanding of where your money's going, right? So we taught a class where a young lady was determined to have her Starbucks every day. She could not live without her Starbucks. That was a non-starter. And we challenged her to just kind of keep up with
Just
her spending
track it.
for a week.
Yeah,
We
for a
gave her a
week.
week, and she literally came back the next week and had to give up the Starbucks because as she did the math, she realized how much that was a week, a month, and a year. And it was money that she could be using for things that she truly needed. So she kicked her Starbucks habit with that bit of education. So
We had another young man who he was the donut guy at work. He would bring the donuts in, and he didn't realize how much he was spending in donuts every week. Just trying to be nice, and he kind of said, "I have to stop that because I need to put gas in my car more than I need to."
Right.
To bring donuts.
absolutely.
Yeah. And then the other thing, when we talk about tracking our spending, I know from personal experience, if you're living in overdraft, if your checking account is being overdrafted a lot, that's a sign of living in crisis.
Yeah.
And I will say personally, some years ago, that was my financial plan. To be honest with you, I had overdraft protection at the bank. I didn't really care about going spending more than was in my checking account because overdraft protection would move money in. Well, what I was sad to realize is A, the interest rate that
Yeah.
they charged me, and B, the hole that I dug our family finances, allowing it to get that bad, right? And it became a nuisance.
Nuisance.
It was more than
No,
a nuisance.
it was a crisis. He said it right
was
the
a
first
crisis.
time. It definitely
Yeah.
was a crisis. So what we want to do, and people have heard us say this before, is we want to encourage you to create a spending plan. You
First and
must
foremost.
foremost create a spending plan, and I've had people say, "How can I do that?" And another word for spending plan is budget, and people have said, "I don't make enough money to budget." So I call it a spending plan because you still need to plan what you're going to do with the money you do have.
I totally agree. It's the very foundation of your financial future. If we're asking what's next, and if you don't already have a spending plan, that is the very next thing you need to do.
That's the eye opener. So first, level setting where you are, right? So that is tracking your spending right now, or even if you can look back a week or two. What have you spent your money on, right? So you got to get the reality there, right?
Exactly.
And then you have to really look at how much money do I owe out? What's going out every month? And you're amazed at how many people don't really know. We have these auto withdrawals coming out of our
Yes.
account for different, the light bill, the mortgage and the fitness center and
That you haven't gone to recently.
yeah, and I'm trying to think of all these different memberships that
Mm-hmm.
people have that we have had to kind of help them really ask them, do you need this right now, right?
Today, the big thing is streaming services.
Streaming services. How many streaming services do you have? Write all of that down. How much a month is going out compared to how much is coming in? And it's important to plan your spending before you spend it. That's
Yeah.
the other thing. If you start spending Friday's check on Wednesday or Thursday before Friday, you're going to always be in a hole.
Yes.
And so, as you get started, it is hard, but eventually when you get in front of it, you know this money is coming on Friday or Tuesday or Monday, whatever your payday is. Sit down and plan that money out beforehand. This is how much I know I'm getting, and then look at how much needs to go out during that time. And then you will see where you have gaps or where you have overlap. And a lot of people find that they have more money left over
Yeah,
after they
they're
create
surprised.
the plan. They think they're just living check to check, and when they realize that they got way more coming in than they have going out, they don't know what they did with it.
Yeah. Now, some very basic things for when you're creating your plan. Every dollar should have a name to it,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
You shouldn't have money just like, oh, that's just over there and I'll decide later. Even if you every dollar should have a name to it, and you should build in some fun, like some spending money, right? You
Yeah.
should, what I call wham, walking around money, right? Like you build, even if it's $5 or $10, right? Like just build that in. And then the other thing finally is like, don't forget, like you may forget things, right? It's going to take about what, 3 months or
It'll
so
give you a good three months
to get
the
really
swing
good
of
at
it.
this,
Yes.
right? So you're going to be thinking of things as you go along, and then what you'll find out is you'll get better at, oh, there's a birthday party coming up next month. Let me set some money aside. Oh, school starts in August. The kids need clothes. Let me start putting money aside for that, right? Christmas. Is it on the 25th again this year?
I think so.
Okay, it's on the 25th. Christmas, who knew?
Yep.
Right? It's coming. So plan for what's coming.
The other thing, and as you guys can tell, this is probably our favorite subject, but the other thing about the spending plan is once you have an actual picture of what you have to work with, right? So some people will do a spending plan and they have more month than money, as Bishop likes to say. So they have this whole list of things that are due and they only have a little amount to do it with, right?
Right.
But that is still knowledge now that you have. And I encourage you to grow being honest with yourself. So if you do have a birthday coming up and you know, now that you know, you have all of this that you have to do with this amount, with this little pot, do you need to go to that birthday party? Do you need to get the expensive gift that you always get? Do you need to take that girls trip?
Yeah.
Do you need to, go out with your girls every Friday? This is what you have. You have the reality with you now. So knowledge is power.
What you're saying is better decision making.
Yeah.
It improves
or
your
definitely wiser decision makers.
Wiser.
I mean, if you still choose to go out and do that birthday party, then you know that that money is coming from one of these things that you need to take care of.
Agreed. So,
And when you don't have enough money, should we talk about the four walls?
go right ahead.
So, another thing is, as when you're that person that you only have a bit of money and you have a whole list of things that are due, you always take care of what we call the four walls. That's you make sure that your rent is paid. You make sure that there is food on the table. Now, you might need to shop at Aldi's, and there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't need to be Dearburg's or
Nothing
anywhere
wrong
like
with it,
that, right? If it's tight, make sure you have food on the table, you have a roof over your head, and that's including your utilities. Make sure that you have transportation. If you have a car note and insurance, you should have insurance.
If you have a car note, you should have insurance.
If you don't
have
have
a
a car,
you
yes.
should have insurance.
So transportation, because you got to get back and forth to work.
It's not optional. Right?
No, and so many people decide to drop the insurance when money is tight. And we know Murphy's Law says whatever could go wrong will go wrong.
Yes.
So we say take care of your transportation, which includes your insurance, the roof over your head, which includes heat in the wintertime. Utilities. Clothes.
Basic clothing.
Basic clothing, right? What's going to get you to work? What's appropriate for work? It doesn't have to have someone's name on it. And if it does, go to Goodwill. They probably have it there. Or Plato's Closet or something like that. But shop-wise. But what I said all that to say, with these four walls, when money is tight, you take care of those four walls first. You shouldn't have someone threatening to kick you out because you haven't paid your rent, but you paid
the credit
all
card.
the loans and the credit cards because they keep calling you. They're going to keep calling you. But your responsibility is taking care of those four walls when you don't have enough.
I like that. That is decision making, right?
Yeah.
You're saying what we're going to take care of first, and then we're going to look at making better decisions as we go along. So decision making.
Yep.
So one of the things, the next thing, I guess, what's next? After we get our spending plan in place, we want to save $1,000 as quickly as possible. So $1,000 for families, but $500 if you're single, right?
Yeah.
So at least save that amount of money.
For what?
Why? Yeah, for what? What do we want to save this $1,000 for? Well, as Crystal just talked about, Murphy's Law. What can go wrong will go wrong. And so there's going to be emergencies. And so we want to save this $1,000 so that when the dishwasher breaks or when the dryer goes out, you're not reaching for your credit card. You've got this $1,000 in place and you can pay for that, right? So emergencies is the first thing. And then the second thing is you're going to plan for future purchases, right? But this $1,000 isn't necessarily for future purchases.
Right.
So that's just a reason to save. And so I shouldn't say that. But it's primarily to keep you from reaching for your credit card. You want to have, and it's like insurance, right? Like that $1,000 is sitting there, and so the way I like to say is, if you need a new tire, or if you've got a car problem, you don't want to have a car problem and a money problem. Right. You just want to be able to pay for the new tire or repair or what's needed. So save $1,000.
How do you save $1,000? So you can save $1,000. There's a couple ways. as I mentioned earlier, you can look down your spending plan and see how much money you have going out. You can then assess temporarily, do I need that right now? Do I need that gym membership? Have I been going? Do I need 7 streaming services right now? Like, are you watching all of them, right? You have to, so you think about that. You look at first where you can cut. If you're eating out a lot, maybe you can reduce the eating out. Maybe you can not buy the soda when you eat out and just get water. There's different ways to do that. And those of you that have kids, this is great for the kids growing up because you're teaching them the same way as well.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You can sell something. You know, who has 2 microwaves? One is from when they moved and they don't use it, but it works. eBay, Amazon has a market, Facebook market. You can sell some things, yard sales. Take your clothes into these different resale shops. There's different things you can do, but the goal is to save that $500 if you're single, $1,000 if you're a family, quickly.
Yeah. Very
And families, you're gonna have to say no to some things.
Like maybe we're not going to a restaurant.
Yeah, maybe you want tacos. Let's
Yeah.
go get some ground beef and make some tacos and nachos. And you know, we used to have Fiesta Friday at the house. Frozen pizza and tacos or homemade pizza, things like that. You know, baked chicken wings. You could get creative with it, and it's not forever. It's temporarily.
Yep. So one of the things with this $1,000 people ask is, well, what do I do with it? Where, when I get it, where do I put it? And so we highly encourage not leaving it in your checking account. Yeah. You want to open a savings account or a money market or something like, well, those are probably the 2 best options.
Yep.
Don't keep it in your checking account.
Not under the mattress.
Not under, because you might tend to grab it.
Yeah, you can get to it. You don't want to get to it that quickly.
So it's for emergencies. We're going to sell stuff maybe to get it. We're going to cut back to get it. We're going to keep it in a separate savings account. Now, do we need to define what an emergency is?
Probably.
Yeah. So this new television that I've been wanting.
That's not an emergency.
I've been wanting.
Not an emergency.
Folks.
How much bigger can the TV be?
Anyway, it's not an emergency. I get it. So
the sale, the clearance, right? It's not an emergency.
It was a good deal.
Yeah, I get it. It's not an emergency. So it really is true emergencies. Like you need to handle this, period. So car breaks down, medical emergency.
Yeah.
Air conditioning goes out. Those are the true emergencies.
Okay. So we have checked our spending. We've got a spending plan. And we are on our way, if not have, $500 if we're single, $1,000 if we're a married couple.
And that can happen really quickly. If you really truly take an inventory of everything you have going out, you can get that saved, that emergency fund pretty quickly.
And at that point, there's a little peace settling
Yes.
in. Would you not say? That happened for us.
Well,
right?
and what Dexter has a problem with, John, or whatever, what he has a problem with is
You know me,
when
right?
we had the emergency fund and we had an emergency, he did not want to use the emergency fund money. It's like, that's why we
worked
have
hard
the
to
emergency
get that
fund.
$1,000, right?
Yeah.
I didn't want to see. But that's a really good point. If you do use it, one of the things we teach is like rebuilding that up as soon as possible.
Yep.
Because again, you never know what's around the corner.
Another thing you can do, which he had to do, is slow down on your 401k contributions. He was maxing out 401k contributions, and we were broke and $20,000 in debt.
Yeah.
And so, we were watching a Dave Ramsey training, and he goes, how are you going to retire early and you're in debt?
Because that's what I wanted to do.
Because
Retire
his
early.
whole goal was to retire early, and he was contributing the max, and we were literally not making ends meet.
We were subsidizing it with credit cards.
Yes,
right? And
absolutely, absolutely.
Well-
so even that, your 401 contributions, your annual United Way things, again, it's temporarily until you have your $1,000 and you have your plan in place.
Yep. So we've got the $1,000 or headed toward there.
Yep.
So what's next? Our next step is We want to pay off all of our consumer debt, everything except our mortgage, right? And
Yeah.
so, how do we do that? What is that called? A debt snowball.
Yeah, you would just do the Debt Snowball, which Dave Ramsey talks about. You can actually Google it, where you actually, again, you already have your list of your debt.
You've listed your debts.
You have your list, and that debt is what's the balance on all of it, right? And then you organize it from smallest to largest.
Correct.
Smallest to largest. It doesn't matter what the interest rate is. I know a lot of people want to go after the debt that
highest
has the
interest
highest
rate, right?
interest rate, but smallest to largest because you get wins quicker.
Yes.
I'm amazed when I sit down with people. They have a bill that's probably $150, and they're throwing $250 at the higher interest rate. I'm like, just pay that one off.
Just pay that.
And then you can take whatever that minimum payment was for that $150 and add it to the next smallest one. So we like to see progress.
Yeah,
When
yeah.
we're trying to get out of this debt thing, and that's the most important thing to do with it is that debt snowball. And again, that is something that you can Google. It's on Dave Ramsey's website.
Yeah. That's Google Dave Ramsey.
Which
Debt
we can
snowball.
provide you those websites and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. But the debt snowball is a really good tool to use.
And I will say, what's important is to have intensity, right? We're going to have focus and intensity when we're paying off our debt.
Yep.
This is the kind of the part that can, depending on how much debt you have, can take a long time. But as Crystal said, the debt snowball, we're taking our smallest debt with the smallest monthly payment, paying that off, smallest balance, I should say, paying that off first. And then whatever we were paying on that, let's just say it was $50 a month. We take that 50 and we move it to the next smallest and say that payment is 150. So we're adding that 50 to the 150. Now all of a sudden we're paying $200 to that debt. We pay that off, and then we take that 200 and add it to the next one, right? And so when you Google that, that's what you'll see. But the important thing is to stay focused and have intensity, because when you have a spending plan and you are debt free, that's when peace really sets in, right?
It is. And so I really want to speak to the people. I have some friends that like to do the retail therapy. And I just want to encourage you to be prayerful about that, because what you're buying really isn't going to make you feel better. I want to speak to those people that got tons of clothes in their closet with the tags on them, that one day they're going to wear them, and just really, really take a hard look at what do you need right now, what can you sell. Yeah, you got to stop spending, right? So be prayerful about what's driving you to that retail therapy. If you do it all the time, once or twice a year, I'm really not addressing that. But I do know there's people that really feel better when they're shopping, but you got to dig deeper. That's deeper. That's beyond a financial conversation. That's more spiritual, and I say be more prayerful about that.
Be very prayerful. Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, we all handle stress differently.
We do, yeah.
Some people go and shop. Some people eat. Some people, express it in different ways, right?
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
stay prayerful, whatever, and try to finance. This is about 20% of this is sort of what we call book knowledge, right? Like things but 80% of it is behavioral, right?
Behavior.
Like how you are behaving. And if you can try to pull your emotions back and make good, solid, honest decisions, that's important, right?
Yep.
All right. So if we are at the point where we're debt free, the very next step then is to have what we're going to call a fully funded emergency fund, right? So that $1,000.
Awesome nowadays, for sure, to have that.
Yeah, yeah. Why would you think it's
Well,
awesome?
so the fully funded emergency fund is where you have 3 to 6 months of expenses saved up, right? So if you get laid off, if you decided you need to quit your job because you want to be remote 100% and your job
And you're
doesn't offer it,
right.
right? You have that cushion, 3 to 6 months cushion to do what you need to do.
I agree. Yeah.
And it shouldn't be a lot of stress to it in the beginning because that's all set aside, and it's insurance, it's all those things.
It's insurance and assurance, right?
Yeah.
You're exactly right.
Yep.
It's again, I say if you have all your debt paid off, and let's just say you have $5,000 to $10,000 in a money market, because that's probably where you should keep that. Again, just like the $1,000, we want to keep it in a savings or a money market. You're probably doing better than 80% of the people walking around here, right? Especially with no debt and $5,000 to $10,000 saved in your money market. So 3 to 6 months expenses, that's the goal. And that is a lot easier because you're going to feel like you got a raise once you pay that debt off, right?
Once you have the spending plan, you're going to feel like you have a raise because you're going to find that you have more money than you thought you had.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
and you're making better decisions.
You're making better decisions, and your children and grandchildren are watching, and so you're teaching them as well. So this is a great way to break generational curses on lack of knowledge from a financial perspective. And I kind of want to switch the topic here because
Yeah,
I
go
know you
ahead.
got your notes here, and I'm gonna throw you under the for loop
Sure.
because I know you've rehearsed this, but I really want to talk about
Buttering me
you know Dexter has really kind of mapped out like the baby steps for how to get out, how to become financially free. But the next baby steps that he has listed, save for college, save for retirement,
And pay your house off
pay
early
off
if you
pay off your house early, right? A lot of people have that flipped.
can.
And so if you're someone that has you have this college fund, but you're not living paycheck to paycheck, or I mean, you are living
You are
paycheck
living
to
to
paycheck.
paycheck,
You're
yeah.
not paying all your bills. If you have, like Dexter, are paying 15% onto your
401k,
retirement fund, and you don't have any money,
Yeah.
or you're trying to pay off this house, really want to challenge you to take a step back. Take care of yourself first.
Mm-hmm.
Take care of what's needed first. Hold off on the rest of this until you can see through for yourself. A lot of times we sacrifice for our families, our children, but when we're not in a good situation, they're not going to be in a good situation.
Yeah.
In the long run.
I agree.
So I just really kind of want to challenge that that thought process. If you don't have these debt issues, then by all means start on that that college tuition, that tuition fund, or those things.
Yeah, and we're trying to sort of lay out the order and the steps. We're all at different places in our journey, right? We're not all in debt, and we're not all needing to invest, right? And we're all in different places. But I think it's kind of thinking through what's best for you and being able to make decisions. Now, something that often comes up that we talk about reality when we're teaching these classes is family and friends sometimes ask for money.
Yeah.
And here you are trying to get your house in order, your financial house in order, and then somebody comes along and says, "Can I get some money?"
Or it's the one that's always borrowing money from you that
always
never gives it back,
Yeah.
right?
And so we got to say no.
I tell people that the best thing to say is, I'm on this financial plan now. I'm trying to get they'll say, "Oh, you got it." Well, let me show you how I got it so you can get it, right? So
Right.
this is a great way, again, to break generational curses by teaching them what you're doing.
Yeah.
And not enabling them because they have guilted you into giving them $20, $50, $300.
Yeah.
These are things that we've seen where people can't pay their own rent because they've been guilted into loaning money out that they probably weren't going to get back. And so it requires some discipline.
Yeah.
It requires the intentionality to grow in this area, as well as, I don't know, the courage to say no. I love you, but no.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I can't keep doing that.
I like that word intentional. And so one of the things that we saw and that we encouraged, so what we did was when we were kind of re-establishing ourselves financially, we had we call it budget committee date, right? It was every Thursday we would sit down and plan our money out for that next week and the week after and for that next month, right? So we highly encourage you to have a set time where you're focusing on your finances. And again, before you spend any money, put a name to every dollar, but do that in advance. And so one of the things when you said the word intentionality made me remember, like when our kids were little, they knew Thursday night was budget night, and they knew to stay away from us, right?
Oh, no, our son would come in and literally say, hey, I know you guys are talking about budget. My birthday's in June, and I want you to make sure I get these Nikes on the list.
The Jordans.
Yeah, I need these Jordans. And that's like his birthday would
Quickly
be like 4 months away. He's
Yeah.
like, hey, can you get that in the budget? And he was, what, 12?
Right. Well, it happened. It was sort of unintentional, but we kind of raised some people who then became adults and are good with their money because they saw what we did, right?
Yeah.
And so be intentional with what you're doing and be intentional of teaching your children, the way, right?
So, yeah, let's wrap this up, babe.
Okay, so we talked about the economy, right?
We did.
We talked about interest rates and inflation and what that kind of means and the effect it has on shrinking your wallet, right? But we also talked about some very basic things that you can do, and if you're not doing them, that's what's next. Checking your spending, have a spending plan, and saving $1,000, right? Those are three things that we can do pretty quickly.
Yes.
After that, what are we going to do?
Debt Snowball.
Debt Snowball. We're going to attack our debt, not just pay it off. We're going to attack it.
Every piece of extra money that you get, every bonus that you didn't see coming, that is not an excuse to go shopping. I tell people all the time, those income tax returns that you get all this money back for, throw some of that at that debt. Do you really need to go shopping again?
Yeah, I agree. Agreed. And then, so we're going to pay off the debt. We're going to have a 3 to 6 month emergency fund. And then it'll be time at that point, and you should start sowing these seeds now, but find a financial advisor. We highly encourage you to kind of sit down and talk to a professional. And as you're, again, wherever you are on this journey, get good advice, seek good counsel.
Sound advice.
Yeah, and stay positive. It won't happen overnight. You didn't get in this position overnight. We won't get out of it overnight.
There may be some tears involved. But it's all growth.
Yeah.
It's all growth.
Sorry, I cried. It was tough. But we made it through it, right? And so we encourage you to follow these steps and reach out to us if there's any questions, for sure.
Absolutely.
And thank you.
Thank you.